Masculinity and femininity belong to the fundamental words of human self-description, and yet they behave like shifting horizons. The closer one gets to them, the more they seem to move. What at first appears self-evident, the division into male and female based on biological characteristics, loses clarity as soon as one enters the field of meanings. Biology explains only part of the picture. It provides preconditions, but no final definitions. Psychology, sociology, philosophy, and individual experience open spaces in which masculinity and femininity no longer appear as fixed qualities, but as historical, cultural, and personal constructions that change with every biography, every era, and every transformation of society. When these perspectives are placed side by side, one recognizes that masculinity and femininity are not closed systems. They are fields in which meanings grow, overlap, and flow into one another. In biology, the focus is on hormones, chromosomes, and physical development. In psychology, on self-images, emotional patterns, and attachment dynamics. In sociology, on roles, expectations, and power structures. In philosophy, on the concepts people create to organize themselves and the world. Spiritual traditions describe masculinity and femininity as two universal forces at work in every human being, regardless of the person's sex. And in individual life, the perhaps most important perspective emerges. Each person develops their own mixture of masculine and feminine elements, shaped by their history, their relationships, their wounds, their desires, their courage, and their inner growth. When one removes the cultural hardenings from these terms, they become movements in a philosophical sense. Masculinity is no longer identified with dominance, rigidity, or control, but with direction, with the ability to draw a line that offers orientation without becoming inflexible. It is the force that creates clarity, not to dominate, but to provide grounding. Femininity in this philosophical sense is not weakness, but relation, an alertness to transitions, resonances, and connections that words often only describe afterwards. It is the force that enables change, becoming and feeling, not as sentimentality, but as a form of intelligence rooted in listening. Both movements exist within every person, and their balance determines how a person experiences themselves. Pure masculinity would harden, pure femininity would dissolve, but life itself is neither hard nor soft. It is an interplay of form and change, decision and surrender, clarity and intuition. Philosophical reflection makes visible that these forces are not bound to sex. They are expressions of the living. Their assignment to man and woman is historically grown, but not necessary. In their deepest nature, human beings are never only one, but always a dialogue between both. Psychology shows on another level how deeply these movements are rooted in experience. Masculinity and femininity are to a large extent learned patterns. People adopt them from family, society, and culture. Some learn that strength and unshakability are expected of them, others that care and adaptability are valued. These patterns become inner scripts that determine which emotions are expressed or hidden, how closeness is shaped, how conflicts are processed, and which forms of vulnerability are allowed. Traditional masculine norms can promote psychological resilience, but also create emotional detachment. Traditional feminine norms can strengthen relational capacity, but also lead to self-sacrifice. The psychological maturity of a person often reveals itself in their ability to use these patterns flexibly, rather than being controlled by them. At this point, the decisive question becomes relevant. What does it mean when biological men tend toward extreme femininity, and biological women toward extreme masculinity? From a psychological perspective, such tendencies can have various causes. One possibility is the natural variation of human personality development. Some people carry more intuitive, relational, or sensitive aspects from the beginning. Others feel more guided by clarity, structure, assertiveness, or independence. These differences are neither disorders nor deviations, but part of the diversity of human identity. Yet such tendencies are often reactions to experiences. A biological man who develops an extremely feminine self-presentation or mode of behavior may do so because he learned early on that care, harmony, or adaptability felt safer than hardness or boundary setting. He may have experienced a dominant, unpredictable, or emotionally absent father figure and perceived the masculine line as threatening. Perhaps violence, control, or excessive performance pressure were linked with masculinity, making femininity appear as a space where emotionality and creativity could finally live. In such cases, extreme femininity becomes a protective space, a counter-movement against what was experienced, or a form of liberation. Conversely, a biological woman who develops an extremely masculine orientation may do so for similar reasons. She may have experienced femininity as associated with dependency or powerlessness, may have seen vulnerability exploited, or may have learned that strength was visible only in male-coded spaces. Such women develop qualities like control, assertiveness, competitiveness, or emotional distance, not because they have lost their femininity, but because they learned these patterns provided safety. Extreme masculinity can be a woman's survival strategy, or a choice to define herself beyond traditional attributions. In both cases, the issue is not that a person is living against their sex, but how they respond to their life world. Extreme expressions, whether feminine or masculine, often indicate that inner opposites remain unreconciled. A person who adopts extremely feminine or extremely masculine patterns is often trying to fill an inner void or resolve an inner conflict by withdrawing to one side of the spectrum. If the other side has been hurt, overwhelmed, or shamed, the psyche often retreats to whatever feels safer, clearer, or more permitted. Yet this is only one dimension of explanation. Another lies in the growing freedom people have today to develop beyond their biological assignment. Many recognize that traditional models of masculinity and femininity do not describe them. They feel that their inner experience aligns more closely with another form, and they follow this sense. In such cases, extreme femininity in a biological man or extreme masculinity in a biological woman is an expression of authenticity, not reaction. The psyche is not seeking protection, but truth. Philosophically, this reflects a dissolving of old boundaries. Masculinity and femininity become expressions of the self, not definitions. Psychologically, it reflects a movement toward integration. People begin to live those aspects that were once suppressed. Extreme forms are often transitional phases. Those who lean strongly to one side at first sometimes do so to compensate for inner imbalance. Only later does the possibility emerge to invite the other side back in. Integration is rarely the starting point. It is the path. In the end, it becomes clear when biological men tend toward extreme femininity and women toward extreme masculinity. This need not be understood as deviation or error. It is the expression of a person seeking balance. Balance between experience and identity, between history and freedom, between protection and self-expression. It means that the old categories are insufficient to describe the richness of human experience. And it means that masculinity and femininity, in their deepest sense, are not properties of bodies but possibilities of being.